I jumped into the ocean to save Gwen Gale. After giving him CPR in front of everyone, the wedding that was meant for my cousin, Roxanne Shaw, somehow ended up being mine. On our wedding night, he'd rather drink himself into oblivion than spend a single moment with me. I was naive enough to hope that persistence would make him notice me. 3 years later, Roxanne returned home holding a child who looked so much like Gwen that my chest froze. For a second, it was only then that I realized, while I spent that wedding night alone, he had been with her. Rox, I know I've put you through hell these past few years. I'll make it right. I'll make sure Snow gives you back your place as Mrs. Gale. I told him I was pregnant, too, hoping it would make even the slightest difference, but it didn't. He just looked at me coldly and told me to get rid of it. Then, he forced me onto an operating table, ending both of our lives in one brutal moment. When I woke up again, I was back on the day Gwen fell into the sea. Drenched from head to toe, he was sprawled on the ground. I shouted Roxanne's name into the crowd, my voice cracking with panic. Gwen forced his eyes open. Coughing up seawater, his voice rough. Get away from me. When he finally saw the person in front of him, he froze. Rox, why are you here? He looked around and spotted me off to the side, just as drenched as he was. In my past life, I had jumped in without a second thought and saved him. With everything I had. However, the moment he woke up, he pushed me away like I was something filthy. Disgust was written all over his face. He had someone bring him towels and water. Then, right in front of everyone, he rinsed his mouth and wiped his lips like I'd contaminated him. However, now, Roxanne kneeled beside him, her expression a mix of worry and shy hesitation. She brushed her fingers over her lips, pretending she didn't know what to say. Gwen understood instantly. He didn't say a word. He simply let Roxanne help him up and walked off with her, not sparing me even a glance. I knew he'd been drugged before he fell into the sea. In my previous life, he'd found the culprit soon enough. I didn't need to play messenger this time. The seawater had been ice cold. By that night, I was burning with fever. There was a knock at the door. My mind was foggy, but the moment I opened the door and saw Gwen, everything snapped into focus. Why are you here? He leaned lazily against the doorframe, giving me a disinterested look. Snow Shaw, what trick are you pulling now? I stared at him, confused. I don't know what you are talking about. He let out a cold, mocking laugh. You yelled for Rox to give me CPR in front of everyone. Does her reputation mean nothing to you? How can you be so selfish? A suffocating guenshaw built in my chest. I wanted to ask Gwen what exactly he expected me to do. I couldn't save him myself, and I wasn't allowed to call the woman he actually cared about. Maybe I should have just let him drown. Think whatever you want. I sniffed and steadied my voice. If there's nothing else, I'd like to rest. I don't really feel well. He probably thought I was putting on an act, trying to get sympathy. His lip curled. Are you playing hard to get? Snow, your tricks just keep evolving. If you're not feeling well, take some medicine. I'm not a doctor. As he walked away, I sighed. Everyone in Navaton knew how much I liked him. I'd thrown my pride out the window for it. He said he liked women with long, straight hair, so I grew mine out from childhood and never once changed the style. Since he liked light-colored clothes, I never wore dark ones. Again, he preferred quiet, elegant women, so I turned down invitation after invitation from friends and stayed home practicing piano, painting, and other refined arts. However, after everything I went through in my last life, I finally realized the truth. Everything he said he liked about a woman was just what Roxanne already had. He liked her. That was all it ever was. And no matter how hard I tried or how much I changed myself, I still wasn't worth even a glance from him. Before long, word spread everywhere that Roxanne was the one who'd given Gwen CPR. The cruise party was hosted by the Gale family. After Gwen's accident, panic swept through the ship. A group of security guards found me. "Ms. Shaw, please cooperate with our investigation." They said that since I was the first to discover he'd fallen into the water, I was the primary suspect. "I saved him," I said in disbelief. One of them looked apologetic. "Mr. Gale said we can't rule out the possibility you staged the whole thing to use it to your advantage." I froze. To my advantage? So that was what he thought of me. They dragged me to a storage room and locked the door, ignoring my protests that it was illegal. Their only response was that Gwen would take responsibility. He said no one is allowed to let you out until the truth is confirmed. And just like that, I was locked up for 24 hours, burning with fever. Without food or water, I finally collapsed. Through the haze, I felt a pair of strong, unyielding arms lift me up. I woke up in my room, unsure who had saved me. Word was that Gwen had handled the situation. When the cruise docked, he personally escorted Roxanne home. By the time I arrived home, I walked right into his voice saying, "Rox put her reputation on the line to save me. Of course, I have to take responsibility. Let's consider the engagement settled." My steps faltered. I'd already decided to let him go in this life, but hearing that still hit somewhere deep. He thought Roxanne had risked her reputation for him. However, if I did the same, he'd just think I was desperate and shameless. Back then, rumors had spread so wildly in our circle that they reached my parents. They went to the Gale residence, and only after enough Gwen showed did Gwen reluctantly agree to marry me. When Roxanne saw me walk in, she put on a troubled expression. "That might not be right, Uncle Liam, Aunt Patricia. Gwen is someone Snow likes. I don't mind people talking, but I don't want to hurt her." My parents hadn't even said a word yet. Gwen's tall figure blocked my path at the door. "Since you heard everything, I'll be honest. Snow, I don't like you. No matter what you do, it won't change anything. You should just let it go. It's better for both of us." I nodded lightly. "Okay, don't worry. I won't bother you or Roxanne anymore. I hope you two are happy." Gwen narrowed his eyes and looked at me like he was searching for something. Behind me, my mom sighed. "You should have figured this out earlier. Once your dad and I start arranging dates for you, don't you dare turn them down again." I ignored the way Gwen's gaze lingered on me and smiled at her. All right. After the engagement was set, Gwen started showing up at the Shaw residence constantly. Before, it was nearly impossible to even see him once. I had to ask around through his friends to find out where he was. And if anyone mocked me for chasing after him, I couldn't even get angry. Now, in just half a month, I had seen him more times than I had in the previous year. Yet none of it made me happy. Roxanne always put on a sweet act in front of me, clearly flaunting as she did so. "Snow, these are the roses Gwen sent me. Do you want one? He had this necklace shipped from overseas. Do you want to try it on? He's sending me so many, I can't even keep up with them all." In my past life, I had been the one who bought our wedding rings. I was lost in thought. when suddenly, Roxanne yanked the necklace off. The chain snapped. The pearls scattered across the floor, rolling all the way to a pair of black leather shoes. Gwen, she cried, throwing herself against Gwen and glancing at me. Snow must have done it by accident. Don't blame her. I'm the one who didn't protect the gift you gave me. Gwen's face darkened. Snow, you always act so obedient in front of your parents. Now that they're away, you show your true colors, huh? You've been picking on rocks since you were kids. Are you still not done? Bitterness crept up my throat. I didn't. I forced the words out evenly. Roxanne lowered her head right on cue. Gwen, it's all my fault. I'm the one to blame. He shielded her behind him, his tone laced with warning. I stayed out of your family's business before, but Rox is my fiancé now. For the time being, I'll be staying here until Liam and Patricia return. Back then, I probably would have been thrilled just to be living under the same roof as him. Now, I just stayed silent. Seeing I wasn't saying anything, he paused and added, "Stay out of our way. I don't want Rox getting the wrong idea." That night, Roxanne whined and coaxed him into blow-drying her hair, purposely making enough noise for me to hear. I passed by without stopping, and Gwen didn't react either. The next day, he noticed my sudden short haircut and smirked knowingly. "Did you cut it just for me?" Humiliated me in public before, but this was the first time he'd actually hit me. Looking at his furious ex-Gwention, something inside me dimmed. Gwen, have you ever believed me? Even once? Do you think you deserve that? He looked down at my figure on the floor, cold and merciless. Since you have no shame, don't expect me to show any mercy. I'll explain this to your parents. Someone, grab her. He ordered his groomsmen to tear my dress and write, "Bitch," across my face in lipstick. It was meant as punishment, to make me feel what Roxanne claimed I'd done to her. I screamed and struggled, tears streaming, until someone barked, "Stop." A pair of familiar arms lifted me off the ground. I buried my face in the man's chest, trembling. I vaguely heard Gwen's voice darken behind us, heavy with irritation and a sharp edge of accusation. "Who are you, and what's your relationship with Snow?" My dress had been hacked into shreds, barely covering anything. Gordon Lloyd shrugged off his suit jacket and draped it over me, then used his tie to wipe the smeared lipstick from my face, as if to shield me from embarrassment. Only then did he spare a glance at Gwen. "Do you need me to spell it out? I'm Snow's boyfriend." Gwen's fists tightened at his sides, his eyes glued to Gordon's hand wrapped firmly around my waist. He wore a bracelet that matched mine, a couple set. 2 seconds later, Gwen's tense posture relaxed ever so slightly. A look crossed his face, like he suddenly saw through everything. "Snow, you're something else. You even brought someone to help you put on a show. Where did you hire your actor?" Quite convincing, I must say. Seeing his attention drifting, Roxanne quickly piped up, crying pitifully. "Snow, since you already have a boyfriend, shouldn't you let go of whatever feelings you had for Gwen? Why make such a scene today? Are you trying to two-time both of them? If I don't get married today, are you hoping to have another chance with Gwen?" Gwen scoffed. In her dreams, my parents must have heard the commotion. They hurried over from the main hall. They didn't know the full story, only seeing me in Gordon's arms, in an intimate pose. They exchanged a glance, confused. They had startled looks on their faces. "Mr. Lloyd, what's going on between you and Snow?" The second the words left their mouths, Gwen froze. His exvention flickered, And he muttered under his breath, Gordon Lloyd from the Lloyd family in Jewel. He finally realized who Gordon was. Unease rippled across his face, but he forced himself to stay calm, chin lifting with fake composure. Who would have thought that Mr. Lloyd would have so much free time, coming all this way just to pretend to be some woman's boyfriend? Gordon didn't bother responding to him. He simply answered my parents politely, Liam, Patricia, I'll explain everything between Snow and May later. Right now, we need to deal with what's happening. That was when my parents noticed Roxanne hiding behind Gwen, her eyes swollen and tear-stained. Rox, why are you crying? What happened? Did someone bully you? Tell us. We'll take care of it. Roxanne choked twice, glancing at me with scared, trembling eyes. And no one bullied me. She looked like she was swallowing her frustration, forcing herself to stay silent. Rox is kind-hearted. She doesn't want to make things harder for you, Gwen said calmly. Snow ruined Rox's wedding dress out of jealousy and even wrote, "Go die," on her mirror. That's downright cruel, so I gave her a little punishment. My parents' faces were drained of color. They looked at me, stunned and hurt. Is that true, Snow? Didn't you promise Mom you were over him? Why would you do something like this? Say something, Snow. If you did it, admit it. If you didn't, explain yourself. My tears soaked through Gordon's shirt as he held me tighter. It was infuriating to be misunderstood by Gwen. However, when my parents didn't believe me, it hurt so much that I felt completely hollow inside. I lifted my head. When they saw the smudged lipstick on my face, with faint letters barely visible, they all gasped. Dad, Mom, it wasn't me. They set me up. They didn't even give me a chance to speak. My dad's gaze snapped to Gwen, anger shaking his voice. So before you even had evidence, you just decided it was my daughter's fault? And you dared lay your hands on her? That's what you call a small punishment? Gwen met his glare without flinching. The surveillance footage was deleted. The most likely culprit has to be Snow. There's no one else. Gordon raised an eyebrow. Deleted? Well, that's convenient. I happen to be an expert in data recovery. Roxanne went pale instantly, restoring surveillance footage took a while. While Gordon worked, he mentioned he'd majored in computer science, and that we'd actually gone to the same university. I was a little stunned. Back then, all my attention had been on Gwen. I never even spared a glance for any other man. If I had, there was no way someone like Gordon wouldn't have stood out. Across the room, Roxanne tugged nervously at Gwen's sleeve. Gwen, didn't you buy me 10 wedding dresses? This one is ruined, but I can change into another. Let's just go ahead with the ceremony. Gwen shook off her grip and stared in the direction where Gordon and I had just left, irritation clouding his face. For reasons he couldn't quite explain, he felt like things were slowly slipping out of his control. Let's do it on another day. Be patient. He ignored the plea in her eyes and insisted on canceling the wedding. Sensing his mood change, Roxanne didn't dare push him. When I heard the news, I was shocked as well. It had barely been a month since the cruise banquet, yet Gwen and Roxanne had gotten engaged and set a wedding date soon after. It was 10 times faster than anything he'd ever done with me in my past life. I'd honestly thought he couldn't wait to bring her home. My parents were nearby, asking about Gordon and me. I felt my face warm, but I still told the truth. So here's what happened. That day, I'd gone to the cafe just like Mom asked, ready to meet the guy she'd set me up with. The moment I walked in, I saw Gordon and instantly assumed it was him. And looks-wise, he checked every box. I pulled out the chair and sat across from him. Gordon raised an eyebrow, surprise flickering across his face. I took the initiative and held out my hand. Hi, I'm Snowshaw. My mom probably already filled you in, so I won't repeat it. We can start as friends and see how it goes. When I finished, Gordon's exvention smoothed out. He gave a soft laugh and shook my hand lightly, the gesture gentlemanly. Nice to meet you. I'm Gordon Lloyd. It wasn't until later that I realized the whole thing had been a mix-up. I turned and lightly pinched his waist in protest. Why didn't you say something at the time? He laughed under his breath. If I had, you would have run off. I turned my face away, embarrassed. After that, we kept meeting up. Part of it was because I didn't want to stay home watching Gwen and Roxanne flaunt their affection in my face, and partly because being with Gordon was genuinely comfortable. I liked spending time with him. So during that period, I was almost always out early and home late. Once, Gwen even waited for me at the door, asking whether I was avoiding him on purpose. The day Gordon gave me the bracelet, we made things official. That was also when I learned he'd been the one who pulled me out of the water on the cruise. He'd been invited by the head of the Gale family, Wesley Gale, who wanted to build ties with the Lloyds. Gordon kept a low profile, though, so very few people knew who he really was. By the time I finished explaining all this, the surveillance data had nearly been restored. In the footage, Roxanne was acting secretively. Then, she picked up a pair of scissors and slashed a long cut into the wedding dress. As if that wasn't enough, she vented her frustration by hacking at it wildly, like she was taking her anger out on the gown itself. Next, she grabbed a lipstick and scrawled, "Go die," across the makeup mirror. Gwincing so hard the tube snapped. Her lips kept moving as she muttered curses under her breath. From the way her mouth formed the words, she was saying my name. My parents went pale. I can't believe Roxanne would act like this. Ever since Roxanne was brought into our home years ago, we'd always clashed. Chapter. Every time, she made accusations out of thin air, and Gwen, along with everyone at school, believed her without question. To them, she was the poor, orphaned girl living under someone else's roof, and I was the bully. I'd thought about telling Mom and Dad more times than I could count. However, I didn't want them stuck in the middle. So I swallowed it all. Now, Roxanne had finally tripped over her own lies. She was probably livid, furious enough to turn pale with rage. I copied the restored footage and emailed it straight to Gwen. Roxanne was clearly in a foul mood. At first, Gwen tried to placate her patiently. He promised he'd make it up to her with an even grander, more perfect wedding next time, and that he'd take her on a honeymoon across Eurasia. However, she still wouldn't let it go. In thought, he didn't understand it either. He didn't like Snow. Back then, her constant clinginess annoyed him to death. However, now she seemed like a different person, and somehow, he wasn't used to it. He didn't want to admit that. Even as Roxanne cried this time, Gwen felt nothing. He had always felt for her and sympathized with her upbringing. He thought she was innocent and sensitive, someone who deserved care and protection. However, he hadn't expected her to be so calculating. She ruined her own wedding, pinned it on someone else, and still had the nerve to cry. And he had wrongly blamed Snow. He'd even laid hands on her. He grabbed his car keys and walked out. Gwen thought a genuine apology might set things straight. especially since he knew Snow liked him. It was his fault for misjudging her, but fortunately, it wasn't too late to make amends. At the Shaw residence, he texted Snow to come down and leaned against the car, waiting. A minute passed. Normally, she replied to him instantly. She must really be mad this time. 10 minutes passed. Half an hour passed. Frowning, he typed again and hit send, only to see a single tick. Snow had blocked him. My mom asked, "Gwen's car is still downstairs, Snow. Aren't you going down?" I shook my head at her. "Just ignore him." Sure enough, 2 hours later, his car finally pulled away. After what happened, my parents were heartbroken for me, even cutting off business ties with the Gales. Everyone in Navaton was gossiping, trying to guess what had happened between our families. A cancelled wedding was one thing, but breaking business ties, too. Those who'd been there started spreading rumors, saying I'd thrown a jealous fit at the ceremony and made such a scene that no one could salvage it. At the next event I attended, the looks I got were full of contempt. So that's her, the shameless homewrecker who ruined her cousin's wedding. Someone even tried to, accidentally, splash red wine on me as I walked by. At that moment, a chest I didn't expect but somehow felt familiar. Gwen stand against me, shielding me from the wine. I looked up and caught a flicker of emotion in Gwen's eyes. Snow. I'd never seen that exvention on him before. There was guilt and regret, but honestly, not much of either. I frowned and quietly told him to let go. His shirt was stained. Whether I liked it or not, he'd stepped in for me. On the way to drop it off at the dry cleaners, I figured I'd talk things out with him and put everything between us to rest. Lowering my head, I texted Gordon, telling him he didn't need to pick me up anymore. Out of the corner of his eye, Gwen spotted Gordon's profile picture. His tone turned sharp. "Are you still talking to him?" I blinked, confused. "Talking to my boyfriend is pretty normal, isn't it?" Gwen gwensed his lips together and sighed like he was the injured party. "I know you're mad I took Roxanne's side before. That was my fault, okay? Stop being stubborn." Chapter 7. 2/3. Do us both a favor and delete that guy. Don't hang around people like him. My exvention went cold. For the first time, I snapped at him. "Gwen, who are you to tell me how to live my life? Who do you think you are?" Just then, the light ahead turned red, and he slammed on the brakes. I swayed in the seat, and my phone slipped under the chair. He ground out through clenched teeth, "Snow, don't you think you're taking this too far?" A laugh escaped me. "And what exactly is your position here? What gives you the right to say anything to me?" His eyes darkened, unreadable. "You're not my brother, and you sure as hell are not my boyfriend," I added. "Oh right, wasn't it you who told me to treat you as Roxanne's fiancé from now on?" "Snow, do you have to talk to me like this? You started it by being so full of yourself," I said flatly. Fine. He gwensed his hand to his forehead, exhaling as if it were a huge concession. "You're right. You're always right. Snow, I don't want to fight. There's a new seafood place on West Street. It's supposed to be really good. Let me take you there. Consider it an apology." I looked at him like he was insane. "Did you forget I'm allergic to seafood? And I don't eat anything raw. The one who loves seafood is Roxanne. You've got the wrong person." Gwen's exvention faltered, a flash of panic crossing his face before he muttered an apology. Maybe out of embarrassment, he started babbling. "Snow, your short hair actually looks good. You grew it out for years, so cutting it like that must have felt like a waste, right? He knew damn well why I'd cut it. I gave him a sideways look. I cut it because I felt like it. Out with the old, in with the new. His face went stiff, like the words physically hit him. I ignored him, bent down, and fished my phone out from underneath the seat. The screen lit up, showing an ongoing voice call. Chapter 7, 3/3. I froze. It must have gotten bumped when it fell. I hesitated, then called out, "Gordon? Are you there?" A quiet, "Yeah," came from the other side. "You heard everything?" Another soft, "Yeah." I replayed it all quickly. I hadn't said anything that would make him jealous or misunderstand. "Wait for me where we usually meet. I'm coming now." Gwen's face had gone pitch black. However, my voice was light. "I won't be having dinner with you. My boyfriend's waiting. Pull over up there." When I realized the car doors wouldn't open, I spun around. "What do you think you're doing?" Gwen's voice was tight with subgwensed anger. "Did you even listen to a word I said? You brought Gordon here just to make me jealous, didn't you? Do you even know who he is? Or his reputation in Jewel?" I cut him off. "I'm dating him. For real. Everything else is none of your business. Unlock the door. I'm getting out." Gordon had been waiting a long time when I finally got to him, his exvention cool and calm. I wrapped my arms around his waist, rose on my toes, and kissed his jaw. He immediately lost his composure, leaning down to kiss me, taking my breath away. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Gwen's car still parked behind us. His eyes were bloodshot, and his chest heaved as he sat in the driver's seat. He even slammed his fist against the steering wheel. For a while, I did what my parents wanted and learned how to run my own company. The wedding fiasco was resolved once the surveillance footage was publicized. I heard Roxanne begged Gwen over and over not to throw her out, promising she'd do anything if he would let her stay at the Gale residence. After all, the Shaws certainly wouldn't take her back. As for those rumors about Gordon in Jewel, they all painted the same picture. Everyone said he was ruthless, cold, and unforgiving. Anyone who betrayed him, even his own family, would pay the price. However, I wasn't afraid. What mattered was that we both treated each other right. That was enough. I ran into Gwen again late one night. He was drunk, gripping my wrist tightly and refusing to let go. When he saw the couple's bracelet with the letter G, he finally realized it stood for Gordon, not Gwen. He went crazy trying to rip it off me. "Snow, how could you fall for someone else so fast? You used to love me the most. 3 months ago, you nearly drowned jumping into the sea to save me, and now you are throwing yourself at another man. What does he have that I don't? Is it because he kisses you better? If that's all it takes, I can kiss you as well. Snow, do you want me to show you?" I couldn't overpower him. My wrist was already red from how tightly he was gripping me. When I realized he was actually trying to force a kiss on me, I used every ounce of strength I had to shove him away. "Let go of me, Gwen. What the hell is wrong with you? I don't love you anymore." "How are you not getting that? You don't love me?" He laughed, unhinged. "Impossible. You chased after me for 10 years. How many decades does a person even get? You don't just walk away from that." My eyes burned painfully. He knew. He had always known. Chapter 8, 2/3. And still, he acted as if he owned me. He twisted my feelings against me and mocked me, enjoying the pain he caused. "Don't forget that we never even dated. Why would I need your permission to stop loving you?" I turned to leave. He lunged again, and the bracelet finally snapped in his hand. We could have. He froze when he saw the tears clouding my vision. Panic flickered across his face as he reached out to wipe them. Snow, don't cry. I'll replace it. I'll buy you 100 bracelets, 100 necklaces, anything you want, okay? Just don't be upset. I turned my face away from his hand. Gwen, I don't want to see you again. I already wasted 10 years on you. Let me go, please. I walked away this time, and he didn't stop me. Gwen stood there, whispering under his breath, it was not like this in our last life. 1-1. I mentioned the broken bracelet to Gordon. He had already gone back to Jewel for work, so I assumed he wouldn't care. After all, it was just an insignificant thing, and he could just send me a replacement. However, the next day, he showed up in front of me, holding out a dazzling diamond ring. This will take the place of the bracelet. Snow, will you marry me? I covered my mouth, stunned, and nodded hard. What I never expected was that on the day of the wedding, Gwen would show up holding a huge bouquet of tulips, looking like he was there to crash the ceremony. Snow, your favorite tulips. I got it right this time. He was right. When we were kids, tulips were the flowers I loved most. However, now, I didn't. I waited silently while he launched into the dramatic confession he clearly thought was heartfelt. Snow, the one I've always loved is you. I didn't understand my feelings back then. Losing you. Chapter 8 made me see things clearly. I've given it a lot of thought these past few days. I know I made mistakes. I've already sent Roxanne away. I won't be involved with her anymore. If you'd just give me one chance, I'll love you with all my heart this time. I signaled the MC to hand me the microphone. Gwen, you don't love me. You are just pathetic, wanting one thing while trying to keep another. My voice blasted through the venue's speakers. Gwen went pale and tried to explain, but I didn't give him a chance. You always crave what you can't have and take what you do have for granted. People like you aren't fit to talk about love. In the end, he walked out with a hollow look in his eyes. I thought that was the end of our story. I was wrong. 6 months later, I ran into him on a commercial street. The once proud, polished man looked thinner and worn out. Gwen's voice was hoarse when he asked how I'd been. I rested a hand on my stomach. I'm good. I'm 3 months pregnant now. He froze, then lowered his head, saying humbly, I don't mind. Snow, if you are willing to come back to me, I will raise the child like my own. I thought back to how coldly he had insisted on getting rid of our child in my past life. Yet, he was now begging to be a stepdad. How ridiculous. Gordon had just returned from getting our drinks. Hearing this, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He shoved a cup into my hand and punched Gwen squarely in the face. Gwen didn't dodge. Blood gathered at the corner of his mouth. Snow, I owed you that. I won't bother you again. I hope you're happy. After that, I heard. Gwen sank into drinking and, one day, fell into the sea. His body was never recovered. However, it no longer concerned me. After the baby was born, I nicknamed her Sunny, a reminder of a life full and complete. The end.